Hey guys, and welcome back to the Nitro Learning Python course. And today, we're going to be going over a concept called scope and see how it affects variables. So what is scope? Scope is an area where a variable can be used. So a variable can only be used in its scope. It cannot be used outside of its scope. And another name for scope is namespace. So there are two types of variables, and both of them have different types of scope. So the first variable is a global variable. Global variables were the variables we learned at the very beginning. So basically, if we just open a file and say x equals 7, that's a global variable. So for these variables, the scope is the whole file. It's not limited to any function. And if we declare a function later on, we can actually use these global variables inside those functions. And the second type of variable are local variables. So local variables are variables that are declared in a function. For these local variables, the scope is limited to only the function that it was defined in. So right here we have an example function, x function, and then we have declared a variable x. So for this, x could only be used in x function. So Python has a keyword. It is called the global keyword. This global keyword allows local variables to become global variables. That increases the scope, and it can be very useful if we're trying to do large tasks and we want to start splitting them up into various functions. Because right now, here we have example function, and we declared a global variable x. So now what we can do is we can make another function and we can use x, and x will still be equal to 2 in that function. So right now, what we'll do is we'll go into VS Code, and then we'll see an application of this. So right here, what we have is we have a function called getNumbers. So basically what this function getNumbers does is it takes two numbers, and then that's it. It just takes them. But for this function, what it does is it sets both of the numbers as global variables. So then if we create another function called addNumbers, we can simply just pass getNumbers, and then afterwards we can return x plus y. So this just shows that we can use global variables to help break up a function, because right here we are splitting the process of getting the numbers and adding the numbers into two separate functions. So if you are working with several people on various functions, this could be very useful. So let's run the function. So let's enter 5, 6. We get 11. And then we know 5 plus 6 is equal to 11. So that was global variables and scope. I really hope you learned something. If you did, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. As always, this was Nitro Learn.